and welcome back to the Student Section, a podcast for student-athletes by student-athletes. Today we're joined not by a student-athlete, but by a student-athlete coach. It's Coach Joe Ausanio of the Marist Softball team. Coach, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Mike. Great to be here with you and Luca both.
Yes, we got Coach Joe. We got Luca DiRienzo, new host of the Student Section podcast.
Indeed.
Coach, you can go so long with everything that you have done and your career. I think I want to start off with Kingston. That's where you're from. You're a local kid.
Yep.
Tell me about growing up in Kingston, right here. Any relation to Marist? Did you know Marist as a kid?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody knows Marist in the Hudson Valley, and growing up in Kingston, obviously, Kingston has a very rich tradition of baseball. You know, there's a lot of former and people who have played in the major leagues from Kingston. Actually, we have one current person from Kingston who's currently playing in the major leagues and actually just signed a free agent contract with the Yankees, and that's Zach Short.
Oh, right. Yes, Mets legend.
That's right. And Zach grew up with Kingston. I actually know his mom and dad both.
Oh, wow.
So very cool. And then, prior to that, you had Mike Ferraro from Kingston. And then my older brother, Paul Runge, also played Major League Baseball at the Atlanta Braves. We had the same mom, different dads.
Wow.
So there's a lot of tradition in Kingston and the Hudson Valley in general.
A powerhouse.
Yeah. Zach Short, fellow MAAC athlete from Sacred Heart University. Back then, the NEC, Division II, but nowadays in the MAAC.
Yeah, they're the MAAC now.
They are. They've made the jump. So you also made the jump. You went from baseball to softball. You played baseball. You were a major league player.
Yep.
And then you got into coaching as a softball coach. Tell me about the differences between the two, because they're similar sports, but there's got to be some difference intricacy-wise.
Yeah, there's kind of a backstory to that whole thing, and it's kind of a funny story. So after I retired from baseball, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. My degree was in kinesiology, and I didn't want to teach. I thought teaching was just boring. And so I was trying to figure out what to do, and I happened to be, this is a really weird story actually, I happened to be at the Turning Stone Casino in upstate New York.
Okay. Just
sitting at a blackjack table and making small talk with a guy, and introduced myself. He goes, "Oh, you're the ball player from Kingston." He goes, "I'm from Kingston too." And he said, "Have you ever thought about umpiring?" I'm like, "Well, not really. I still give some private pitching lessons on the side, and I just don't know if that would be, something where I would want to be out there and if one of my kids come in to pitch." He said, "No, I'm talking about softball." I said, "Softball? Why would I want to umpire softball?" He goes, "Oh, no, it's great. You make the same money. You're done in half of the time." And so I let him talk me into it. And so I started umpiring softball. And as I was umpiring and watching the game, I just would question, why do they do this way? And why would they do this? And so I just became kind of a student of the game. And after I retired, I started working for the Hudson Valley Renegades, the minor league affiliate here in the Hudson Valley in Fishkill. And we would always host the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference baseball tournament.
Yes.
So I became very friendly with the staff at Marist. And Tim Murray came up to me one day and said, "Hey, I'm hiring a new softball coach. I know that you've been doing some umpiring. I'd love for you to maybe coach with her and mentor her and just be part of the staff." And I thought about it, and I was like, well, the seasons kind of coincide. Our season for short season, it was short season A-ball then, which didn't start until June. So I went down and met with her, and I did it for a year, and it didn't really work out at that time. And so I went back to the Renegades, and then fast forward to, I believe it was August of 2008, something like that. And Tim Murray called me and said, "Hey, my coach just took a new job. Can you get me through the fall season?"
Wow.
And I've been here ever since.
What a story.
Yeah.
It started way before that, though.
Yeah, way before.
Way before.
Yes.
You were a ball player, 94, 95,
Correct.
with the Yanks.
Yep.
You're part of the strike, too.
I was. It was awful. I had just gotten called up to the major leagues in July, and, August 11th, I believe it was, we were going on strike. But another pretty cool story was I actually pitched the last game at Yankee Stadium before the strike.
Wow.
And I was the losing pitcher in the game. I gave up a home run in the 12th inning, and we lost to the Toronto Blue Jays. And the worst part was I gave up a home run to Ed Sprague, who was with the Blue Jays. And prior to that, Ed was 0 for 12 off me with 11 strikeouts. And that was the one time he got me. It was the worst timing.
Well, you mentioned a low light. How about a highlight? You struck out A-Rod. How does that fit into all the accomplishments you've had throughout all of your career?
Yeah, I mean, that was really cool because it was my second major league game, and it was in Seattle when he was a rookie in Seattle, and I was a rookie with the Yankees. And it was really cool just because I got to face Ken Griffey Jr., I got to face Edgar Martinez, and just that lineup was just incredible to face. But, he was a rookie, and I've said, well, I'm sure he didn't see many split-finger fastballs in high school, so that's pretty much why I threw him every pitch. But I don't even know if he's my best strikeout. I had some other really good ones. I had Dave Winfield, Hall of Famer,
Wow.
Eddie Murray, Hall of Famer. It was all the little guys I couldn't get out. So, the guys like Chili Davis at one point were 2 for 2 off me with 2 home runs totaling about 1,000 feet. Okay. So, guys like that I couldn't get out, but it was the big guys I had no problem with.
Were you ever starstruck while pitching?
I don't know if I was starstruck. I kind of was just very focused. It's really weird. When you're in a stadium and there's 55,000 people, it's just noise. You don't hear people. I was worse if I was in a stadium with 10 people and you could hear that one guy, hounding you the whole time.
Yeah.
You hear him, where in the stadium you just hear noise and it's loud, but you don't hear people.
Right. You mentioned the stadium. What is the worst heckle you've ever received? You don't have to go into expletives or anything, but is there anything that really shook you?
Yeah. What rating is this?
That's a good question.
No, there's a lot of good heckles. I mean, funny, last year when we were at the regionals in Texas A&M, Texas A&M is known for the 12th man, and their fans are pretty ruthless. And we ended up playing Texas A&M in the elimination game, and they were just hounding my team, and my girls were struggling with it. And so when I went out to coach third base, the left field side that was kind of hounding them, I just went up to them. I said, "Man, I just went right up to them all. I said, you guys are supposed to be the 12th man. You guys are like little leaguers with your insults." And so they immediately turned on me, and they're Googling, and they're trying to come up with stuff. And my girls are like, "Coach, what are you doing?" I said, "I got this." And after the game, my captain came up to me and said, "Why did you do that?" I said, "Notice they stopped with you." And I said, "I've had 65,000 people boo me at one time. I can handle, a couple hundred more."
So I noticed that watching. I was
that?
like, all of a sudden, they just stopped.
Yeah.
And they were so loud the first couple of innings.
Yeah, and so I just I went up to them, and I just was ragging them. I said, "Man, you guys don't even have good pizza here." So I was just really giving it back to them.
Right.
How was the brisket? How was the barbecue?
Really good. Really.
It's Texas.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be pretty good.
No, it was good. And honestly, College Station is just such an incredible place. The staff, the field crew, everybody did an outstanding job. It was incredible. And considering it was 110 degrees on the field, it was pretty fun.
For context, this is after the best season in Marist softball history by far. 48-9-1. You guys won the MAAC regular season. You guys won the MAAC tournament. And that included an interesting day where Gartland wasn't really ready.
Correct.
So you guys had to go over to Iona midway through the playoffs. Tell me about that, because you expect home field advantage. You think it's in Poughkeepsie.
Yeah, it was frustrating, but I was just a big believer at that time that, what, you want to be the best team and you want to do it on the field. You don't want to take any easy way out and, argue that, we deserve the home field advantage. The field was playable. Let's play. And in my opinion, the best team last year won.
How did that win feel, especially after the 2024 season, where there was sort of a fall there, What did that mean?
Yeah, I think the 24 season we went in, really confident, winning the, regular season, and just not playing our best games. We probably played our 2 worst games in those 2 games. And I think the returners really took it to heart and really said, you know what, this is not happening again on our field. And they really played well the entire week. And then the last game against Siena, they came out and hit 3 home runs in the first inning, and it was 7-0 in a blink of an eye.
Right. Not to harp on negatives, but how do you prevent that same fate of the 2024 season coming off a championship? This is sort of a similar fashion. How do you go out and make it 2 in a row instead of eventually,
I think, honestly, for me, this is just a very different team. I mean, we graduated 8 people last year. Maya McDonald was the MAAC Player of the Year. Maddie Pleasance was the MAAC Pitcher of the Year. So, there's a lot of people who need to step up and kind of fill those voids a little bit. But I'm excited. We have a lot of talented freshmen that I think are going to step up this year, and can't wait to get going starting this weekend.
You talk about stepping up. Is there anyone specifically who you've been really impressed with as a leader?
Well, Haley R., this is her 5th year. She's a 5th-year senior, and she got injured her freshman year, so she kind of missed her freshman year. And then when she came back to play, she was the MAAC Rookie of the Year. And She's the preseason player of the year in the conference, and I think that she's just such a perfectionist and always wants to do well, just very conscientious of doing a great job, especially on the offensive end. And in my opinion, Peyton Pusey is probably the best all-around player in the conference. I mean, she can do anything and do anything well.
You have all these players returning. What's the it factor, the secret sauce that you bring, and what does a recruiting tour look like for you to bring in such great athletes as well?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. For me, I try to recruit really good athletes and make them good softball players. I've been very fortunate to have, a combination of both. And I think that for me is the biggest thing. And when you give kids a tour of Marist really sells itself. When you step on campus, I mean, it's gorgeous. And you do it in the fall when you have the foliage and football games happening and the campus is kind of buzzing. It's pretty easy to sell this place.
I think something that helps it has to be your field. You take your recruits down to the field. Last year during the spring, I know recruitment doesn't really happen during season. You weren't able to because Scartland was under construction. So you guys have your home opener delayed. Your real home opener, technically, is over at Army West Point. Tell me about the mentality around this team when you guys didn't have a home, basically.
Yeah, that was difficult. We've always had problems with the field. They would fix it, and then it would start to settle, and they would fix it, start to settle. And the company that was putting in the new track, we asked them to come over and, maybe see if they could figure out what was happening. They dug a test hole, brought up a giant tire. Next thing you know, they're 22 feet down, pulling up roller coaster parts, car engines, car hoods of cars, roller coaster tracks. But the big thing was there was a bunch of dead trees and dead stumps. So as they were decomposing, it didn't matter what they did with the field. It was just going to always keep settling. So now that we have that fixed and we have a beautiful new track and field area, we're hoping to hopefully get a new field in the next couple of years.
There were 1930s roller coaster parts, an amusement park that's just buried there. I mean, that's pretty cool. But nowadays, you got the great scenery. You mentioned out in left center field and left field, you have the track that you can look at. And then you're looking right in right center field, it's the beautiful Hudson River.
Yeah.
And now you guys are going to get a new field in the next couple of years. That's incredible.
Hopefully. I'm not sure what phase it will be, but hopefully it will be, soon.
Another thing to add to the recruiting,
Yeah, and that's one of the things, there was some talk a little bit back and forth about moving us up where baseball is on that field that's on the other side of McCann. But I really didn't want that. I really think that where our field is, it's a selling point. And when we do a tour, the very first place we go right down that road, behind the dorms and walk up to the field. And usually it's a gasp. This is really pretty.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's great scenery.
Oh, incredible.
Now, you mentioned baseball. You've mentioned softball. There's a little lull in between when you pitched in the MLB and when you started coaching. I've heard through the grapevines you've wrestled.
Uh-huh.
Tell me about that story. We were talking about it before.
Yeah.
That's a cool story when you were working for the Hudson Valley Renegades.
It is a true story. I was, working for the Hudson Valley Renegades for 23 years, and we always talk. We try to do what they call NTR, non-traditional revenue, and you try to find events that you can bring to the stadium because when you're a short season A-ball team, you have 38 days out of the year to make money, and so you have to figure out other ways to try to
keep afloat.
Yeah, make money for the team. So I'm sitting in my office one day, and general manager walks in and introduces me to a promoter and says, "Hey, we're thinking about doing a wrestling show here at the stadium." I'm like, "Oh, that's an incredible idea." And so I start going back to my work, and they're still standing in the doorway. And I'm like, "What's up, guys?" And they're like, "Well, we think it'd be a good idea that you wrestle." And I said, "Wait, are you kidding me?" I said, "I'm a 50-year-old man, and this is not like some career change that's going to happen." And so the promoter was like, "You know what? We'll put you in a tag team match, and you can go in and put a headlock on somebody and then tag out." And I thought about it. I said, "You know what? I don't ever try to do anything halfway." I said, "If I do this, I'm going to do it." So I went and I trained for a solid 2 to 3 months. And actually, one of my first training partners was Luis Santiago, who worked here in admissions for years, and he did some professional wrestling and. Worked with him, and then I started to do some stuff. These guys who have the wrestling here at the Mid-Hudson Civic Center, Vic Delicious and Hale Collins and Tommy Dreamer. I started training with them every Monday and Wednesday nights at the Mid-Hudson Civic Center, and I started to really like it. But people don't realize what you put your body through when you're doing professional wrestling. I mean,
hard work.
it's really hard work, and you're landing on plywood that has a little bit of foam on top of it, but it still hurts. And so I said, I'm going to do this, and I was actually supposed to wrestle with Jerry the King Lawler as my tag team partner.
Oh, wow.
But I don't know if you remember, Jerry the King Lawler on air had a heart attack on air on Monday Night Raw.
Wow.
And when that happened, I didn't know what was going to happen. I thought maybe they were just going to cancel my match. And then the promoter said he's going to team me up with Gold Dust, who's Dustin Runnels, Dusty Rhodes' son, and Cody Rhodes' brother.
You looked acrobatic in that video. You were showing us before.
Yeah, I showed.
You looked pretty good. You had some good moves out there.
My team likes to pull up these videos and tease me with them. There's a lot of memes and stickers that come my way from these things.
I mean, we really have to emphasize that, though. You were looking acrobatic after, your career, but I want to compare the wrestling to your career. As you said, very detrimental to the body. Maybe detrimental is not the word, but you have to put your body through a lot. A lot of people say wrestling's fake, but it really is real in that sense. Comparing that to your baseball career, what really is worse for the body? Because, you're putting your body through two sort of different levels of pain.
Well, I think the difference was for the wrestling here, I was home and, training here at home. And these guys are doing it night in, night out, different city, on a plane, not getting as much sleep. It was the same thing, when you were when I was playing baseball. I hated being on the road. It's tough, especially when you're flying to the West Coast and you have to do the West Coast swing, and then when you come back, you lose 3 hours. You have to, you get in at 6 in the morning. You have to be at the field at 2. You don't really get much sleep, so it is a grind. People don't realize, that stuff that kind of happens behind the scenes. But I think the difference, like I said, is for me with baseball. I was just used to it, being on the road, where at the wrestling I could just be home, laying in my bed and, recovering at home, where I'd have to be on the road all the time.
Yeah, definitely.
That's something that you have to do nowadays. You're going to have to travel 4 different times for 4 different tournaments. You're going out of South Carolina twice. You got Texas, and you got Florida on the docket. Talk to me about your non-conference league, because it's tough.
Yeah,
it's going to be a grind this year. Yeah,
when you sign up for tournaments, you don't know who else is going to go. And it turned out that, we have some tough teams. South Carolina, at the tournament, we play them twice. They were a super regional team last year. We have, at North Carolina, we have North Carolina, Arizona State. We also have University of South Florida, Indiana there. So there's some really tough teams for us, but I think it's going to be really good for us to prepare for the MAAC conference play. And I always tell the kids, when you face these teams and you can be successful against them, these are the types of teams that we're going to be paired against in the regionals if you win the conference. So, the lights, won't be that bright for them, and they'll have some confidence going in.
Go ahead, sorry.
That lets you pick up such invaluable experience. Like last year when you guys won your first ever NCAA tournament game.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that. It was a mercy rule over St. Francis of PA.
It was. And, it was actually the first one for the entire conference in all the years of the conference. It was the first time ever we were a 3 seed, and that was our first as well. So just to kind of get those types of accolades and that type of respect was incredible. I actually spoke this year at the NFCA convention, and I can't tell you how many people came up and just, really congratulated us on our year. And it was a lot of fun. It's probably, a once-in-a-lifetime type team. But you know what? We continue to work hard and just keep trying to put a great product on the field.
You talked about people coming in, congratulating you. The community of Poughkeepsie is very passionate about their sports. It's a good thing about going to a mid-major school is you're closer to the community, you're closer to the people who go to the school. How much does that mean to the team, and does that affect the process of how things work around here?
Well, it's kind of a good point. We love to have great local support. We'd love to have more of our student athletes come down to our game. When they come, it's a lot of fun. The lacrosse team, they're my favorite because they are so loud and almost borderline obnoxious when they're there. But it's so much fun because they really get into it. And, our kids hit a home run and they're there. You feel like you win the World Series. And, the girls really like that. They get pumped up. And I see it even I was at the women's basketball game the other day. There was hardly any students there, and I would just love to see more support, even from not just the athletes, but the student body in general.
I agree.
Have the Poughkeepsie faithful embrace it. And you talk about playing loose. Last year, I remember I was down there for the game before. You guys show up. You're in these crazy wigs. You guys are in all these costumes. So tell me about just playing loose.
Yeah,
Why do you do it? How do you guys do it? I mean, it's cool.
First of all, I knew nothing about the wigs. And,
okay.
I think they were trying to get a reaction out of me. Or is Coach Joe going to like this? I laughed. I thought it was hysterical.
Mission accomplished.
And it made me say, they're loose and they're ready to do this. And like I said, I think a lot of it was just, harboring the disappointment from 2024 that, we felt like we had the best team to win, and we just did not play well those two games. And, I had plenty of people saying, what happened? And I just couldn't put my finger on it. We just didn't get jobs done when we needed to. The first game we had bases loaded 3 times and didn't score in the first 4 innings. And, you just know when that happens, it's just not your day.
The odds are going down. But Siena is the team that you beat to go win the entire MAAC championship. And you mentioned how the year before you were down 7-0 after a couple innings. You were up 9-0 after the first.
Right.
How did that change all around? And in the perspective of the Battle of I-87, I mean, that's got to be really cool.
Yeah, it felt really good because they waltzed. Their team got dropped off up at the corner, and they walked through it. The game was early. They walked through at 7 a.m, blaring their music through the people sleeping in the dorms. And I just said to the team, I said, this should motivate you just to shut them up. And
you did.
Yeah, they did quickly.
You did. Now, someone that was on your staff last year was Kristen Erb.
Mm-hmm.
She was an assistant coach with you guys. Now she's taking a head coaching gig over at the University of California in Pennsylvania.
Right.
You're down to a 2-person staff. It's you and Alyssa Grupp. So what else goes into preparation for the two of you? I would assume it's more of a responsibility on both of you.
Yeah, well, Alyssa did such a great job last year as a graduate assistant that it was very easy for me to promote her. And fortunately, we did just add a 3rd person.
Okay.
We got a young lady, Julianne Bolton, who pitched at UMass.
Okay.
My former assistant coach, Morgan Royer, who is now the head coach at Monmouth, called me and said, hey, I got the perfect person for you. And Julianne has came in, hit the ground running, and been incredible.
Well, congratulations on the new promotion. That's great.
That is great. I wanted to ask you about Grupp. Being a former player, now coaching. What's the biggest welcome to my side moment that she's had as a coach so far?
I think she has seen the behind-the-scenes stuff that as players they just don't realize, where you have to deal with parents or you have to deal with kids complaining or things just not going the way you want them to go. And it's kind of eye-opening. It was eye-opening for her. People who she thought she knew, really, she didn't know them until she saw how they really were in person. And, sometimes that's the frustrating part of coaching sometimes, that I tell these kids, you're 18 years old, you can fight for our country in a war, you can vote for the president. As adults, you need to talk to the coaching staff as adults. I don't want to talk to your travel coaches. I don't want to talk to your parents. I want to talk to you. And so we really try to treat them like adults. And, knock on wood, it served us well.
Absolutely.
And I think that's great because Grupp was someone that played for you just a couple of years ago. Yep. She was teammates with some of the girls that are still on the team.
Yeah.
I believe Pep and Haley are.
And Isabella Mannery.
Yeah. So what kind of dynamic do you see between them? Because that's got to be an unbreakable bond that nobody else in the conference, let alone probably the NCAA, has.
Yeah. Well, one thing about Alyssa, she's done a really good job of staying professional. And I told her, I said, unfortunately, until they graduate, you have to be their boss. And once they graduate, you can be their friends again. And it's a tough line. It's tougher for the players because they're so used to, being with Alyssa and, doing stuff outside of Marist Softball that, Alyssa has just done a really good job of staying professional and just making sure that she keeps a fine line between the coach-player dynamic.
That's something that you got to do during travel. So we were talking before. Luca asked if you guys were traveling down via bus to South Carolina. You said absolutely not.
Yeah, no, I don't want to be on a bus.
You don't want to be on a bus with them for that long.
No, not for that long. No way.
It's interesting.
Yeah, no, I love them, but after a while, I can only take them for so long.
Okay.
I had no gray hair before I started coaching, and now I have tons of them, and so they are responsible for the majority of them. And but you know what? I wouldn't want it any other way. They are a fun group to be around. They like to banter back and forth, and they like to push the envelope and see how far they can push. And they know though when to stop. It's pretty cool.
Someone that's particularly interesting to me, at least on the personality side, has got to be Peyton Pusey.
Yeah.
She is very quiet off the field. She works for Marist Athletics. We love the work that she does.
Yeah.
It's incredible, that videography and her photography and all that. But on the field, she is one of the loudest people ever. She's screaming after doubles. What kind of change do you see in her on the field versus off the field?
Yeah, she's just an intense player, and I wish I had 100 of her. I mean, she's just an incredible player. But like you said, off the field, the nicest person. I mean, she's somebody who you'd want your son to marry. That type of kid, and she's just always pleasant. I've never seen her angry. She has never not been respectful. She's just an incredible human being, and we've been very fortunate to have her, and fortunate too in the world of the transfer portal that she has stayed. I'm sure that if she went into the portal, she would have had a lot of people that wanted her to play for them.
That's a big thing. Your retention rate is unheard of in the modern day. Transfer portal, NIL, players that when you're Haley R, you're leading the nation in batting average. When you're Peyton Pusey, you're leading the nation in runs scored. When you're Maya McDonald, you're breaking MAAC records with home runs. Nobody wants to transfer out of your program. I think that's a testament to you, to the coaching staff, and the program that you've helped to build.
And I buy them a lot of froyo. They like froyo.
Okay.
So a lot of bribes in there.
Okay.
No, seriously.
It works.
It just, I'm a big believer in doing the right things for my student athletes. And I tell them all the time, there are two things that I want for them, two things that I want to happen when they leave here. Number one, I want to be the first reference on their resume. Number two, I want to be invited to their weddings. And I'm not necessarily going to go to the wedding, but if I get the invitation that it tells me that I've done a significant job in their life, that they're thankful for the job that I did for them. And my wife kind of yells at me a lot because we get a lot of invitations to weddings, and we're getting to the point where we can't afford them anymore. So,
who has reached out on the resume portion? I'm curious about this.
Everybody.
Okay.
I've written so many letters of recommendation.
That's great.
Even last year, a bunch of the seniors, I wrote a bunch of letters for all of them.
And that's something that people don't put into perspective. I mean, Luca, you could talk about this. You were a student athlete. People don't realize you're a student too. You got to make a career after softball, after your sport.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the other things I tell them when they come here. If they want to go to the Women's College World Series, this is probably not the place for them. But if they want to compete for a conference championship every year, get a great education, then that's kind of what we're about. I tell them that I want to prepare them for the next 40 years, not just the next 4.
I think that's so important from a coach to be a mentor as well. It's fantastic, the kind of work that you do, putting out a championship team, putting out a team that's great off the field, but great on the field as well. We've talked about Pusey. Haley R. She led the nation in batting average. And you were telling me before how she hit, if I quote this correctly, 12 out of 16 of her BP hits were over the fence, onto the track.
Over the track.
Over the track.
Right.
And for reference, that's 250, 300 feet.
Ish.
Which in softball is incredible because a softball is harder to hit for distance because it's heavier than a baseball.
Yep.
So tell me about Haley's competitiveness. That's crazy to me that she did so well in the BP round, and she's still asking you for more. Hey, I got to do better.
Well, yeah, she's, she hits 12 out of 16 over the fence, and she's like, what am I doing wrong? I told her to get away from me because you're fine, It's just, but that's her. I mean, she's a perfectionist. She always wants to do well, and very conscientious, like I said, especially on the offensive side of the game. And it's nice, though, when she's on your team, I will tell you that, because the kid can flat out hit.
It's fantastic to see all the stats. I mean, these are video game numbers that your team puts up. It's, again, a testament to you, to the coaching staff, but also to their dedication. So tell me about them off the field a little bit in terms of how much work are they putting in? How dedicated are they to this? I mean, they're Division I athletes, but Is it a step above what you would expect?
Yeah, I think you kind of, made a great point in the fact that they are very self-conscious of how they do. So we were done this year right around Thanksgiving. So I told them, I am not going to see you for 7 to 8 weeks. Mm-hmm. Well, while I'm home, I would get nightly videos of them hitting, pitching, fielding. They were doing everything they were supposed to do and then some. And they came back ready to go, and we haven't had a chance to get outside, obviously, with the weather much. Yesterday was the second time since we've been back that we could actually go out and hit some fly balls.
You guys were outside in this kind of cold?
We were on the football field for 35 minutes.
Nice.
Got some work in.
Wow.
Yeah.
I give you credit just for that alone. Yeah. I don't think I could stand out there for 35 minutes.
It wasn't that bad yesterday. It was very similar to today. So
okay. Well, that's good.
It was enough where we could, but, our field, I don't know if we get on that thing for another month easy.
Well, yeah, you have such a disciplined crew around you doing all the right things you mentioned. When you're looking for an athlete to bring in and you go to combines or events, what are you looking for and what do you see in an athlete where you're like, they have the Joe Ausanio grit that I need on my team?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing I look for, honestly, is I want to see what they do when they fail. It's very easy to be, great when you're going great. What do they do when they strike out? What do they do when they make an error? Because those are the types of players that I want to see. Are they going to mope? Are they going to sit there and just throw their helmet, throw their bat, throw their glove, be disappointed, or are they going to set it down, get up, and start cheering for your teammates? The vetting process is very important to me, and I think that's why we've been successful in retaining kids because we've gotten the right kids.
Absolutely.
As we've heard, 8 seniors are gone. You've replaced them with 7 new freshmen and a graduate transfer. What can we expect from basically half of a new team with such high expectations? You were practically picked unanimously in the preseason poll, with the exception of 2 first-place votes.
Right. Well, I'm excited. I think the freshmen are very talented. They all did very well in the fall. Every one of them are going to contribute, and you're going to see, every single position player have opportunities to help us win games. We're going to be shuffling people in and out. The competition is going to be good, and we're going to have 20-plus games to figure out who's going to be on the field for those first conference games.
And taking the freshmen, high school and college is a completely different pace thing. So you can look at high school highlights, you see the foundation an athlete has, but you really can't give a full assessment on them. What are you teaching these freshmen that you have had in the past success with all your previous athletes? What are you translating into them?
Well, one of the big things, too, when I'm out recruiting is I don't go to many high school games. I go to these tournaments where you have the best of the best playing against each other. So I have gotten to watch our kids face, pitchers that are committed to Oklahoma, pitchers that are committed to Stanford, and I see how they do against them. And when they're successful against them, then they can be successful in the MAAC. So high school is very difficult to recruit because the talent level on high school teams is very all over the place. You'll have some really good kids and you'll have some really bad. So, a pitcher who's blowing away kids who aren't that good, who really don't play much travel ball, but they're there to fill a roster spot, I don't put a lot of emphasis on that. But when I see a kid who's pitching at a tournament at what they call, it would be kind of similar to like AAU for basketball, and she's, blowing away kids who are committed to D1 schools or, high mid majors, and they're being successful, those are the types of kids that I try to really target.
Are there any athletes that you see that might struggle at these large events, but you can tell there's something in there where they have the mentality, they're still going, even though they're having sort of a rough day?
Oh, yeah. I don't just make a decision on one day. One thing about baseball, softball, these are games predicated on failure. They're not really predicated on success. You have this beautiful city in upstate New York called Cooperstown, where you have the greatest baseball players that have ever walked the planet that probably failed 70% of the time.
7 out of 10.
And so, that's kind of how when I'm recruiting, kid has a bad day. Like I said, I'm okay with that because I want to see how she is afterwards. I want to see if she's a mope. I want to see if, hey, can we, go take some swings or whatever. There's a lot more that goes into it than just, being successful on the field.
That also helps when you're on the big stage. Last year, you guys are in the NCAA tournament. You're down in College Station at Texas A&M's facility. You guys were on ESPN2. ESPNU, your game is being aired. You were talking in the dugout almost like it's Sunday Night Baseball.
Yeah.
What was the reaction from the team knowing that they were playing on national TV?
Well, I think a lot, kind of trickled down from me. I just had a very calm demeanor. I didn't want the moment to be too big for them. They saw that I was very relaxed and not nervous, and I think that helped them, really just say, you know what, let's go out and play. And Liberty, who ended up winning that regional, I mean, we very easily could have beaten them that first game.
It's a good battle.
We had a unfortunate error of somebody who doesn't usually make errors, and then we had a play where we tried to create an interference call. Instead, the ball went through, and they scored a couple runs after that. But we hit 3 home runs off their number 1 pitcher, and gave them all they can handle.
You talk about all these accomplishments, the ones that you have had in your entire career. This team who is successful, both of you combined. How do you see all of these successes and still want more and stay humble and know that you haven't done what you're supposed to be doing yet?
Yeah, I've always had that mindset that nobody remembers the silver medalist. I want to be the gold medalist. I don't want to be the bridesmaid. I want to be I want to be the person. And when I'm out recruiting, I'm looking at kids. Okay, I don't say, can I beat Arizona State with this kid? Can I beat Fairfield? Can I beat Canisius? Can I beat Siena? Can I beat Iona? And those are the types of kids that I'm targeting because I want to be successful in the MAAC. And we talked earlier a little bit off air about how we have some tough Power 4 teams coming up, and that's in preparation for the MAAC schedule. And hopefully, we don't see pitchers in the MAAC as good as what we're going to see, because that's how you win. You score more runs than the other team.
Absolutely.
Something else that we mentioned off air, I forget who the name was, but Luca looks like someone. Who did you say it was?
Yeah, I said Luca looks like Adam Lambert.
Okay, so he took over for Freddie Mercury as a part of Queen.
Yeah, he was the lead singer that Queen kind of recruited, and he was on American Idol, and a little bit. He's not a lot, but he just reminded me of him when I saw him. I'm like, who does he remind me of?
I bring this up because I think you guys have the best walk-up songs, the best music in between innings, not only in the MAAC, not only in the NCAA, but probably all of baseball, all of softball combined. And you said you're not really a big part of it. So I'm curious, where does your music taste lie?
Well, I don't pick their songs. They all pick, what they feel like.
For you. You played ball. You had a walk-up song. What were you rocking?
I'm a product of the 80s.
Love it.
Any 80s song. I'm usually really good at 80s music trivia. I'm very hard to stump, whether it's the song or the artist. When I was in Buffalo, they used to play a song called Flirtin' with Disaster, which was by a Southern Jacksonville band called Molly Hatchet, but I didn't really like. I'm a big Van Halen, Journey guy.
Oh yeah,
that type of stuff.
Okay, Jump,
such
a good song. Yeah. Panama,
probably more Journey than Van Halen.
Okay, Don't Stop Believing.
Yeah,
Never Stop Believing.
You ever go to Derby's on Tuesday and take part in the karaoke there?
Yeah, no, that's probably not going to really happen, especially if there's college kids there. That probably wouldn't be well. But I do have a funny story. So there was one of my first years, I remember we were having a really bad practice, and I said to my assistant coach, I'm like, what's going on with the team? Oh, they're talking about going out later. They don't really care about practice. I said, going out? Where are they going out? I don't know, some bar. It was like Union Square or something like that. I said, I'm going to go. And she's like,
wow.
I said, yeah, I'm going to go. I'm going to go see what's going on. I'm going to see what's up. So I got there, and the funniest thing was there was a line like 50 to 100 people deep. And I said, I walked right around the line, right up to the bouncer. He said, what's up, boss? I said, I coach the softball team at Marist, and you have some underage kids in here that I'm going to get out here for you. He's like, go right ahead, sir. And I walked in the bar, and it was like cockroaches scattering to the light. People were running out, and it was kind of one of the funniest things that I've done here in my 18 years.
When was this?
This was like 2010, 2011, somewhere in there.
Okay, so within your first couple of years of coaching.
Yeah, I was annoyed.
That's a cool story.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So
they all jumped in cabs. I didn't get to see one of them. The best was I saw one of the basketball players, and he saw me, and his eyes got real big. I said, have you seen my team? And he was like, they're in the back. And so I guess it was like a big square, and the word got out that I was in there, and they all just ran out the front door.
You got to go.
Yeah, they got
I wonder what that interaction would have been like. What would it have been like? I'm curious. Let's say one of your players didn't leave. You catch one of your players.
It was just more like, hey, you guys can have your fun, but when we're at practice, I want to get the work in.
And I think that's why you guys are so successful, because you take games, you take practices, you take workouts, everything so seriously.
Yeah.
It's huge.
But we also have fun at practice too. We'll
Vibes.
have music playing.
Yes.
Sometimes I'm not a fan of the music they choose,
Okay.
but
Best music on the team. Who's got it?
Ooh.
You're giving aux to somebody.
Sam Rogers by far.
Okay.
What is she playing?
Well, she'll
Country, right?
she'll mix in some 80s stuff, rock and roll, and the others, bad stuff. I can't deal with it. Country, I'm tired of.
Yeah.
I hear country all the time.
But it is the genre of baseball softball, is it not?
Maybe the new one, not in my day.
Okay, not in the old way.
It wasn't a thing.
Okay. Okay. Interesting.
What is the headline of bad? Like, is it a genre? Is it a certain song that they play constantly?
I don't know. There's this one song that they put on. It says the same thing for the entire song, and I'm like, get that song off. And then there are times when I will hijack the speaker before they get attached to it, and then they get upset. But I'll mix in some songs for them that they can play. But listen, I like some of the stuff that they play. I'm okay with like the Jonas Brothers and
Okay.
stuff like that. But the country stuff, it all sounds the same to me. It's either about a truck, beer, or girls. One of those three things.
But that's the beauty of it. You can add football to it. I think that's the big four when it comes to country.
Yeah.
So you're not a fan of repetitiveness.
No, it's annoying.
Okay, but you would be in winning, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
You want to repeat winning. And that's something that you've done. You've won the MAAC a handful of times. You've been named Coach of the Year. You've done it all as a baseball guy.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Well, great players make good coaches. I mean, those awards are team awards. They're not really for me.
I think someone that's a great player that didn't get as much of the spotlight because of Kylie and Maddie last year is Anna Sidlowski.
Yep.
I would assume she's going to be the number one option this year.
Well, I think we have a lot of options that can be number one. But,
Okay.
Anna is going to definitely – I mean, she was the Rookie of the Year her freshman year. So,
She was.
there's a lot of potential in there. And, last year I think she was just a victim of, Maddie Pleasance just having the best year that she ever had. And when Maddie was recruited here, I really thought Maddie was going to be the best pitcher we've ever had at Marist. And, she had some control problems, but she figured them out last year. And, as you could see, it was worth its weight in gold because she was outstanding all the way through the season.
Oh, and by the way, for those that aren't familiar, she's a two-way player as well. Just so happen to have a batting average of around 400. Hit, 20 homers as well?
22 home runs last year.
The Shohei Ohtani. We've all said in the media area, she's the Shohei Ohtani of NCAA softball.
Yeah.
I'd go ahead and argue.
No, she had a really good year.
She was phenomenal. That's why she was MAAC Pitcher of the Year, and only didn't get Player of the Year because, you had, 4 players that were capable of MAAC Player of the Year? 5.
I think any one of them could have been nominated and gotten the Player of the Year last year.
Which goes back to the recruiting, but something for the recruiting, I think. I saw this on Instagram, and I thought this was sick. Your guys' locker room. You got a new locker room this year. First off, where is it? Is it in McCann?
It's in McCann.
Okay.
Yeah. It's in the hallway as when you walk into McCann. If you walk down towards the training room, it's on the right-hand side. As you're walking by, there's a bunch of pictures on the wall. It's between there.
What was your initial reaction when you heard, all right, new locker room coming?
Well, listen, Coach Grupp and Coach Julianne, I mean, they did a great job of getting that thing ready. They took a lot of pride into making that nice, and it's like a home away from home for the girls. It just stinks because it's so far from our field.
Right.
But, that's hoping, down the road when we get a new field, we get to have a nice locker room down there as well.
Talk about a home away from home. You have a lot of players that aren't really from the Metro Atlantic area, not really from the Northeast. What about your philosophy recruiting-wise allows you to go to California, like Isabella Mannery, or go outside of the general Northeast to go recruit some players?
Yeah. I mean, I just go to these tournaments, like I said, and, you just, find kids who kind of fit your mold. And I really don't have a geographical area per se that I try to recruit from. Pittsburgh has always been a very good area for us because Pitt doesn't seem to want the kids.
Okay.
It's either Robert Morris or Marist, it seems like. And, we've had a lot of kids from one particular organization called Team Pennsylvania, Rochelle Hall, who runs that organization. She's done a really good job. But we've had about 8 kids from that organization.
Wow.
Claire Oberdorf was also one of them, who was probably one of the greatest athletes ever here at Marist.
Wow. I mean, that's really impressive.
Claire was such, I don't know if you guys know who she is. She's a little bit older than you, but she was also recruited for basketball out of high school.
Wow.
And
here as well?
No, she wasn't recruited here. Brian Georges was the head coach.
Yes.
And Coach Georges had some kids transfer out and they had some injuries. So like a dummy, I went up to him and said, hey, by the way, one of my players was recruited for basketball. If you want, I can see if she wants to maybe help you out. And he's like, well, I don't know. And then he got back to me and goes, hey, is your kid maybe interested? And I said, okay. So I asked Claire, I said, are you interested? She said, yeah, I'll go. So she goes, will you come to practice with me so I, know somebody? So we were in the McCann arena, and the team is practicing on the far end of the arena, and Claire starts shooting on the other end. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie Hoosiers. Have you ever seen that movie?
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it.
Well, there's a scene in that movie where Gene Hackman, who was the coach, was trying to, get one of the kids to play basketball. And he shoots. So Claire is shooting like threes, and one after another, swish, swish, swish. And I'm like, when's the last time you touched a basketball? So I don't know, Coach, 8 months ago. And,
jeez.
Next thing you know, Coach Georgia says, hey, you, come here. And then I didn't see her until the end of the basketball season. And she ended up being a dual sport athlete here. And in her sophomore year of basketball, she led the NCAA in minutes as a walk-on.
Have you had any other dual sport athletes?
Oh, I could have easily. Maya McDonald could also have easily played basketball here as well.
Really?
Yeah, she averaged like 30 a night in high school.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I went down that road once. I didn't want to do it again.
Yeah.
I can't believe that.
Yeah, well,
because she's so dominant at softball.
You should see her play basketball.
Now I got to see.
It's really unbelievable.
It's unfortunate that she graduated. Now I want to see her on the court.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Your dual sport recruit, was that a part of the Brian Georges era where you were just winning conference after conference championship, or was that a little bit after?
A little bit after. But, like I said, I mean, for me, I really try to bring in good athletes and try to make them good softball players.
Got one last thing before we wrap up here. What are the expectations this year, and how are you going to go out and achieve them and possibly try and beat next year?
Yeah. Well, I tell our team, a couple years ago, we were the hunter, and now we have become the hunted. So the target is on our back. We have to go out every day because every team is going to bring their best. And, I tell them we just can't take one pitch off any game, any inning. And if you play that way, be prepared mentally, then, they have to beat us on the field. We're not going to beat ourselves.
The hunter becomes the hunted. We will see starting this weekend. Marist Softball heads down to South Carolina to start off one of 4 major tournaments before MAAC play. Head coach of the Marist Softball team, Joe Ausanio, it was a pleasure to have you. Coach Joe, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Mike, Luca, great to be here with you guys.
That's alongside the first time that Luca DiRienzo has hosted with us, so a big shout-out to him as well. Big shout-out to our entire crew. Behind the scenes, of course, under the supervision and production of Gary Sussman. This has been another episode of the Student Section Podcast. Tune in next time, and thank you for watching.